Hey everybody, it's Sajad, Stealth Amazon FBA, and if you're looking for a step-by-step guide on how to buy from Alibaba, then you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to import from China, and I'm going to reveal some easy ways to do this so it saves you time and effort, and also you actually get your products from real manufacturers, not middlemen. And I'm also going to advise you on how to avoid any kind of scams, delays, so you don't have to learn all about shipping, Incoterms, etc. because a lot of that is not actually necessary. So let's get onto the computer and get started. Step number one. First thing you actually need to do is to search for your product on Alibaba. Now I'm going to assume for this step you've already done your product research and you've come up with a product idea. Now actually finding prices on Alibaba is actually part of the process of appraising your product. Now if you want more details on how to appraise your product, I'll link a video in the top right hand corner now. So you see the link just here, click on that and go through that first if you like. So for this example, I'm going to use water bottle. Simple product, very customizable, many different varieties and types. So it's great for this example. So what we want to do first, I'm here on Amazon.com and I've got water bottle there. You want to find out what your main keywords are. So if you actually put a space past this, you'll see Amazon auto suggests things to you. For example, water bottle with straw, with time marker, organizer, water bottle stainless steel in terms of the type of material used to manufacture the water bottle, many different options there. And you need to have a good idea of the sub niche. So let's say water bottle is the entire niche. You need a good idea of the sub niche. What type of water bottle are you looking to source? Now, why is that important? Well, if we go onto Alibaba.com here, and in the top search bar, you can search for products. Now, if you don't have an Alibaba account, very easy. Just click register. It's completely free to register an account. It's up to you whether you want to use a business email address or your personal email address. My experience, it doesn't matter in the slightest. The suppliers don't actually care. So what you can do here in the top search bar is one of your searches. So let's say we're searching for water bottle, and this is a nice broad search. But the problem is when you scroll down, you'll find there are over 200,000 results. And that's going to take you way too much time to sift through all of those to try and find the best suppliers. And actually you don't need to do that. So the first thing to do to narrow it down is to use your particular keyword for your sub niche and just try and find the best match you can. So for example, if you want to order water bottles that have time markers, so let me just show you what those look like. You can see here there's some extra annotations there on the side. We can actually search for that here on Alibaba. So we can actually type in with time marker. Another little tip here is sometimes if you're not sure what sub niche to go for, rather than only searching on Amazon, do the same trick here. So just type in water bottle and then just leave a space and see what Alibaba auto suggests. Now the reason they auto suggest these particular ones is because they're the ones commonly searched for. So that's what people have been looking for in terms of actually supplying products. So we're going to go for the one with time marker. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see there's only 2,000 results. So we've already reduced that by a factor of 100. So that's step one done basically. So that's the initial search process. Get your main keywords for your sub niche and search them in Alibaba so it narrows down the search. The next step is to actually filter through these. So we're actually finding the best possible manufacturers or trading companies, and I'll show you how to do that now. So when you're on Alibaba.com, you'll see here on the left hand side supplier types, and what I recommend you do is check both of these boxes, trade assurance and verified supplier. That way it's safer for you when you're actually purchasing products. And also the main manufacturers, what they do is they actually spend money to list their products and services here on Alibaba.com. And by clicking these, you're actually narrowing down to those people who've actually kind of paid to be here and very likely have been selling on here on Alibaba and supplying people with products for a long period of time. So that's ideally what you want. Now, I would not mess about with anything else here on the left. And the reason for that is you don't want to over filter your products. Now, I've discussed this previously in my product research tutorials as well. That's a big mistake a lot of beginners make because you have to remember some of these listings, the manufacturers, they may not have made great listings. They may not have put the right keywords in the title, etc. And you might be missing those excellent manufacturers that could provide great prices by over filtering here and deciding, first of all, I want this type of certificate, I want this type of price, minimum order to be this much. So that's a real issue here, because these prices you see on Alibaba, these are not the actual prices you'll get from the supplier. Sometimes they can be way off. So you have to completely ignore these and understand that the main thing we're trying to do is just get into contact with somebody who manufactures water bottles that have that extra feature that we're looking for. So the marker, that's it. That's all we're trying to do. So we don't want to narrow that down too much and miss genuine, very, very useful manufacturers. So after clicking on those two, you'll find it's actually narrowed down the search even further. Let me just zoom out a little bit so it's clearer for you to see. And now, unfortunately, on Alibaba, there's not great kind of functionality when it comes to sorting by the suppliers, etc. So you kind of have to do this manually, and it does take a little bit of time, but all that extra time you spend will save you potentially thousands and thousands of dollars. So what's the next thing we want to do? Well, this is me searching for product listings, but the other way I can change this search slightly is by changing this tab here in the top left from products to suppliers. So if you click on this and then click on suppliers instead, keep the search exactly the same, and then click on search, what you'll find now is narrowed down to only 287 suppliers, and they're all verified supplier and trade assurance, which is what I requested. A lot easier for you to now look through. And the key here is we're trying to find a manufacturer and we want them to send us a catalog of their products, especially if they have many, many different water bottles, especially a few different varieties that have the time marker which we're looking for. And to filter it further, what I'm looking for here is ideally a supplier who's been selling here on Alibaba for over 2 or 3 years. I'd say 2 or 3 years minimum. You get a lot that have just popped up in the last year and they're selling all sorts of different products. This is a great example here. This one that's only been selling here for a year. I would stay away from those and filter those immediately. Usually water bottle manufacturers will have been manufacturing water bottles forever. So, you know, probably 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's what you're looking for here. So for example, this type of listing here, 8 years, and it's housewares as well. Sometimes you can have a look at the title as well to give you a bit of an idea. And this takes us on to the next step, which is actually contacting these suppliers. Now, another kind of parallel step is also weeding out the trading companies. So what do I mean by that? Let's discuss that right now before we talk about contacting suppliers. So basically, you as a customer here, you are receiving products potentially from a manufacturer or a trading company. What trading companies are, they're like middlemen. So they actually contact the manufacturer on your behalf, and then they most of the time arrange the shipping to you. Now, obviously for that, I'm sure a lot of you realize they're going to take a percentage of the fee. They're going to take some commission. And the problem with that is all of this is eating into your profit margin. Now, very rarely, it's actually better to use a trading company rather than a manufacturer. But the vast majority of the time, so over 97, 98% of the time, you need to be finding the real manufacturers. And there are telltale signs as to how to do that. And that's something else I'll be discussing in this video. By the way, if you've been enjoying my tutorials, please click the like button and also subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm going to be doing another tutorial very soon on actually how to customize your product. So how to pick which is the best sub niche to actually go into, and I show you how to do that using product research software and a few other tricks. Okay, so now that you've got that in mind, let's go back onto Alibaba. Let's discuss step number 3 now, which is actually contacting the suppliers. Now this is very easy to do on Alibaba, thankfully, and there are a few ways to do it. One way to do it is when you find suppliers that you're considering contacting, what you want to do is you want to contact a good few suppliers. So I would say anywhere between, let's say 2 or 3 for a very small niche, all the way up to 10 or even 15. Now, that doesn't take a lot of time, because what you can do is you can come up with a custom kind of message and then send it to all of them. And there's a couple of tricks to do that on Alibaba. One of them is to actually add the suppliers you're looking to contact as you're scrolling through. Add them to your favorites by just clicking here on favorites. The other way you can do it is you can click on compare, and then that way you can actually contact a few of them at the same time. So let's do that right now. So let's click on compare. So you can see that it says I've selected one supplier, and then let me scroll down, and then I can actually add somebody else as well. So if I wanted to add this particular supplier, click on compare and it's selected too. And you can select up to 20. You never usually need 20, but you can go through and actually do that first. So I've just selected 4 here for the sake of this kind of example, and then click on compare. Now what you can see is in compare results, it's got all of the different suppliers. So for this step, obviously we're trying to contact all of these suppliers, but remember, this goes hand in hand and parallel to weeding out the trading companies. So both of these steps are kind of together, but I'll discuss step 4 in just a minute. Now here you can see all of the supplier details, you've got their address and stuff like that. Don't need to worry about any of that stuff for now. What you need to do here for a collective inquiry, you see here at the bottom left, click on select all. That way, in one message, you can actually contact all of these suppliers. And my suggestion here is to pre-prepare a template that you're going to send to all of them. Now I have a very good, very simple template I use when I'm contacting suppliers. If you'd like a copy of that, I'm happy to share that for free. It's in the description below, the first link in the description. And if you just enter your email address, I'll send you a copy of that free template and feel free to use it. So now the next step is to click on contact supplier. And in this section, that's where you add your template. And you can make it very generic. You don't have to worry about that too much. But my advice here is I've seen people recommend massive essays and sending that to the supplier with 8 million questions. You do not need to do that. In fact, it's a good idea you don't do that, because a lot of that will be ignored by manufacturers, to be honest with you. Time is money when it comes to business here. And remember, this is just your initial contact with a supplier. So you don't need to be asking lots and lots of questions right now. You just need to basically make that initial inquiry, try and get that catalog, that price list, and see the different types of products that they offer. In this particular case, a water bottle with that time marker. That's all you want from them, nothing more. So don't make it too long, because it's honestly not necessary. As you continue to build a relationship with the supplier, it's only after the maybe 4th or 5th email back and forth that you actually prepare your order. You're not doing that immediately anyway. So I hope that part makes sense. Now let's go back a step. So this was one way to do it. The other way, as I mentioned, is you can actually add a few of these to your favorites. And if you want to, you can create separate kind of favorite folders. And you can see here it now says the company's been added successfully, check my favorites. And I've actually just added, for the sake of this example, a new folder here, water bottle. So the way to do that, very easy. You'll see an option at the top, create new group, and just type in the name of your group there. So let's say you were ordering something else, like, I don't know, spice jars. Just click that, click confirm, and then it will add that as an option for you. So now when we go back onto the main page and we've added a company to favorites, it goes to the main favorites folder, and then you can move it onto the folder that you want. So now when you're on your favorites page, you can see here products and suppliers. Click on the suppliers tab, and then you can see all of the ones you added, and you just select here on the left the ones you want to add to that folder we created. So water bottle. So let's say this one, and then just click move to water bottle. And now here are my favorites, and if I select all of them, so all 2 of these for example, I can click on contact supplier, and then you see here on the top, it actually sends that message to all of the suppliers that you had chosen. So again, copy and paste the template into here, add these verification symbols here at the bottom right, and then click on send inquiry, and that's all you need to do. And then that way it actually sends to all of them at the same time, and then you just wait for the replies. Now usually it depends on kind of time zones and stuff, but here where I'm based in the UK, usually if I send them a message, I would expect them to get back to me the next day, unless I contact them kind of earlier on in the day, so morning time in the UK, because there is evening time in China, but they may still be able to get back to me. Now just note as well, on Alibaba, not all of the suppliers are based in China. So you actually get suppliers from around the world on Alibaba. It's a common misconception. So step 4 of this process is to actually weed out the trading companies, the middlemen, and just get to the manufacturers. Now I've got 6 great tips for this. There's no kind of direct way of doing this. You can't just click a button and that's it. It's just the manufacturers. I wish it was that easy. There's a few telltale signs you need to watch out for. The first one, very, very simple. Just look at the name of the company. Either look at the name here on Alibaba or open their company into a new tab. And when you do that, you can actually see more details about the company. So as an example here, I've opened a couple in a new tab. So it's got some of their details at the top there, the number of employees they have, the business type, their main products. So that's the first tip. A lot of the time it will just say trading company in their name, so it's very, very clear. What's the second tip? Second tip is to look at their main products. Just have a quick glance over them. So why do you do that? Well, in my mind, if I'm looking for a water bottle, I would expect the manufacturer to just sell products related to that. So either just kind of water bottles, just that small niche, or generally just plastic types of products. I wouldn't expect the manufacturer to be selling water bottles, but also spice jars, and then also cameras, and then also garden equipment. It's very unlikely they'll be the real manufacturer if they're selling little bits of everything. So all of these products, they require their own kind of molding, their own kind of business expertise and design expertise, etc. So I hope that's clear. So that's the second tip I have for you. Look at the main products. So let me just show you another example here. This is another company list, and you can see their main products actually do look like different types of bottle options. So if I keep scrolling through, you'll see a few other types as well. And I would ignore all of these other pictures of the actual factory, because a lot of the companies, they can just get them. They can get like stock footage anyway. So, I mean, without actually going there physically in person, you don't know that for sure anyway. And to be honest, the trading companies and the middleman, they don't want to try and trick you or anything like that. It's, if you don't ask the question, then you can't know. Which takes me to my third question. If you're not sure, you just contact one of these suppliers and ask them, do you actually manufacture these products, or do you work with other manufacturers? So that's the third way to check. The fourth way to check, and this is a little bit more subtle, is after you've actually contacted them here and they've gotten back to you, how long do they take to get you some prices? So if they're actually then calling the real manufacturers, it's going to take them a little while longer. If you're speaking genuinely to a manufacturer, they should be able to tell you straight away, these are our list of products and these are our prices. So how else can you check to see if they're a trading company or a manufacturer? Well, the other tip is when you reach out to them using my template, you'll basically be asking for their general main catalog with regards to these types of products. You should expect them to send you a nice looking catalog with all of the different options there. Sometimes they won't have the prices on immediately, you have to prompt that. But what you don't want to see is a basic Excel spreadsheet where they send you lists of, again, lots and lots of random products on that Excel spreadsheet. That's not what you want to see, because very likely then they're a trading company, and if they're asking you too much before they give you a price about how many units you want, so they keep asking you, do you want 200? Where are you sending them to? Then what that means is they don't know the price. They're going to speak to the manufacturer, and based on that number of units, they'll get you a price thereafter. Another small tip as well is to also look at their number of employees in the company. You don't want to see only like a handful of employees. How can you run a factory with just 5 or 6 people? Generally, it'd be anywhere from 20 to 100 people with that company. The final one, again, this is a little bit of a subtle one as well, is again, this is in my experience. When I've communicated with manufacturers, what I've found is their English tends to be quite poor, communication skills not great. By the way, relatively speaking, it's still very good in terms of the purposes of actually just ordering products, but relatively speaking, the middleman, the trading companies tend to be a lot better when it comes to communication with you. Remember, that's their skill set. They know how to list products really well, find customers really well. So for that, they obviously charge a commission. The manufacturers, that's not their specialty. What they concentrate on is making, hopefully, very, very good products. That's why you have to kind of expect that. So that's another very subtle sign. So that's it. So going back to the search, we've covered step 3 and step 4 on how to buy from Alibaba and how to import products from China. So what's the next step after this? So step 5 is actually to prepare the order. So how do we do that? Well, it's going to be a lot of back and forth emails as you kind of hone down on the particular product you want and the particular number of units you want to order. Now, if you're not sure how to estimate that, again, I discussed that in a separate video. In the product research video, I show you a few pointers, but I'll do a more detailed video on that in due course. But as a rule of thumb, it tends to be 1 or 2 months of inventory, I would say, as a minimum. And then you want to find out what that price is. Now, for this example, again, I'm going to assume you're going for air shipping. And the reason for that, especially as a beginner, it's a lot simpler to do. So the supplier should be able to give you a price for the number of units. Let's say you're ordering 200 water bottles. They should be able to give you a price for that. Let's say it's $800 for argument's sake. Then they also should be able to give you a price for shipping those by air to either your home address or direct to Amazon. Now, if you've not already created a listing or done any of that stuff, just give them a random Amazon Fulfillment Center address. So in your marketplace, just Google Amazon Fulfillment Center and find one near you and give them that address, because that will be very, very close to the actual price you pay. Also, you see here in the top right-hand corner an orders a kind of tab here. So basically what you can do is once you've agreed something with your supplier, then you can actually ask them to draft an order for you for that particular product. And I recommend as a beginner, just use trade assurance on Alibaba. Your supplier will know what that means, and then they'll send you the order link, and then you'll see it pop up here, but it'll also go to your email address. You click on that link and then you can prepare to actually pay for your products. Now, there are other ways to pay them. You can do direct bank transfer, PayPal, etc. But I would advise not doing that at the beginning. With trade assurance, you get a little bit of coverage, and also the supplier has a little bit more pressure to supply you with good quality merchandise, but also in an acceptable time period. So they can't take your money and then take 6 months to prepare your product. So that's a good way to avoid it. Now, if you're using my template, you'll see that I actually asked them for lead time at the beginning. What does lead time mean? Well, it's basically the time it takes for them from taking your order to prepare the products and to get them shipped for you. So that could sometimes include the shipping time or just include the time it takes to get the product ready. And you want to check that first, because you don't want to pay and then for them to take half a year to prepare your products. A lot of my products, especially airship ones, I expect them to have ready for me within a couple of weeks, especially if it's a product that they have off the shelf, so they already have that variant and I'm not adding too much to it. That's how quick it should be. And remember, this is money you're investing. You don't want to wait too long for a return on your investment. You want that back as soon as possible. So always check lead time. And as you're comparing the different suppliers, if you find two of them are quite equivalent in terms of the quality of the product, but one is taking forever to make it, the other one can get it to you quicker, then always go for that quicker option. Because also when it comes to restocking, you want everything to be as fast as possible. And once your order is complete, you'll see something like this. So obviously the name of your supplier, order number, the product you're ordering, and the payment that you actually made. Now, the other thing to remember when it comes to actually ordering products is if it takes your supplier time to prepare the order, what you usually would do is pay them a deposit first. That's something you can agree with your supplier, but the initial payment is usually around 20 or 30% as an example. And then once they've actually got your products ready, then they'll take the balance payment, so the extra 80%. And once they've got all of that, then they'll arrange for shipment of your product. So it's fully paid for, and then it will be on its way to either you or an Amazon fulfillment center. So the final step, step number 6, how do you actually pay your supplier? Well, I briefly touched on PayPal and also direct bank transfer. Now, I hate direct bank transfers with Chinese suppliers in particular because there's just too much delay. It takes forever to the transaction to go through. It's very easy to make mistakes if you don't take all of their bank details perfectly and their kind of business address details, etc. And the other problem is because of these delays, you're just again wasting time in terms of getting you new products here or restocking a product. Now, if you've got a good relationship with the supplier in future, it's something you can definitely do, but why overcomplicate it? Because if you make one mistake and you've sent $1,000 and it doesn't get to them because of a mistake you made in the transaction, then that money kind of disappears for a while. And then there's a lot of messing about. You have to speak to your bank and try and get that money back, etc. You don't want all of that hassle. Now, PayPal is an okay option too, but you don't get that extra kind of assurance and protection from Alibaba, which is why for beginners, I always recommend just go for Alibaba.com and do their trade assurance order, which the supplier, as I mentioned, will prepare for you. So usually you'll see a page like this and it says make payment or request modification. If there's something changes that need to be made, remember your supplier can just send you a fresh new order as well, or you can request modification here. Now, when you click on make payment, you'll find a new tab opens and you've got a few options here. You can either do what you can see here, an online transfer, so a fast bank transfer, but you can see that processing time, 1 to 3 business days. So that's always an issue, and I prefer not to go for that, but it's a little bit cheaper. So once you've developed a good relationship, then absolutely that's an option. The other much simpler one, and the one I've always preferred, is credit or debit card. And that's a great thing about purchasing products. You can actually use a credit card as well. Now I won't get into whether you should be using credit to run a company or anything like that. Just remember, however, that most businesses, once they've actually grown to a certain level, they do use credit because it accelerates the growth. That's completely normal for any company really, or any successful company anyway. The other option you have here is obviously debit card, which you can use as well. But notice here the transaction fee for all of this is higher. So this is on an order, as an example here, a $3,000 order, but the processing time is very quick. So within an hour, your supplier will get notification that you've made the payment, and then they can arrange for either your product to be made or arrange shipping for you. Finally, wire transfer, again, it's not an option I recommend. Processing time takes forever. Many potential things could go wrong with that. I would stay away from that entirely as well. So that's it. Once you've made that payment, potentially you completed the process of ordering your products from China and buying from Alibaba. Now note here, by the way, I didn't discuss inspection or inspection services or anything like that because the video would just get too long. If you'd like a separate tutorial on that, just comment below. Or if there are any particular challenges you're having at the moment when you're ordering products from your suppliers, please again just mention it below. I'll be happy to help you. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one.